Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Andy Campbell Football Show. A little bit different this evening. Sai is recovering from his accident, his car crash. So, first of all, wish Sai a speedy recovery. I know everyone in the group chat will be wishing him a speedy recovery and make sure everything's okay. First of all, welcome everybody, and we're a global sports agency. Who have helped support the show throughout since its beginning. Martin and Jamie and the guys done a phenomenal job and carry on to do so. Huge thanks to tonight's sponsor, Darren Ralston of Bespoke Finance, for numerous years and helped me throughout my life and supported me with injury insurance, critical illness insurance, mortgage cover, etc. So please get in touch with Daz through myself, through Sai, through his own social media, doing great things in the local area of the northeast, and it's nice to support. He's given out a £140 will with any new cover brought out, so something massive really, which he's willing to give out for people who follow the show. So huge thing. Before we go into the guest, I want to start by dedicating tonight's show to young Jordan Banks, 9 years old. Obviously, everyone heard the horrific story last week that he tragically lost his life whilst playing football, and this show has been really helped me talking about football and living my dream really, to meet some amazing people, and I know we're going to go on to our special guest tonight, but I've met some amazing people, and to hear a tragic story like that someone was playing football and tragically, I can't even comprehend what that young man's family is going through. So, you know, me as a dad, as a football man, it's my thoughts are going out to everybody, family, friends, school, mates of his, teachers, you know what I mean, everybody. It's just a horrible time of hope this little message can get to people and help in any small way. But to our special guest, we go back a very long way. The person I'm going to introduce to you, both at the similar age. Guest looks a lot younger than I do. He looks very well. Amazing, had an amazing football career. Ex Blackpool, Burnley, Queen's Park Rangers, Leeds United, and many, many more, which we're going to try and touch base on tonight. But welcome, Clarke Carlisle. Welcome, mate.
Oh, thank you, Andy. Thank you. And if I'd have known that commentary was part of your intro, I wouldn't have come on the show.
And do you know what? I only realised when it was on, thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was yeah. And you know, I know. Well, I was going to say I'll apologise, but I won't, because we are going to touch on obviously that a little bit later on in life. But can I just start by saying, mate, how well you look? You're looking amazing. How's life treating you? Okay.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, do you know, I'm feeling very good. For the past 4 years now, been working incredibly well, just on me, mate, on my wellness, you know. Been doing a load of therapy, and now I just feel so calm. I feel so calm, so contented. Circumstances are mad, by the way, at the minute. Life is just really, really strange. But life can do what it may. I'm in a really good place.
Oh, amazing. And you know what? People this year, you know what I mean, especially the last 12, 18 months, to say that you've been working on me, as in you, how important is that? How important is that for other people to throw that message across to people? Because, you know what I mean, people have been struggling, people have been stuck indoors, people haven't been able to see families, you know what I mean, they've been stuck here, there and everywhere. But how important is sometimes to focus on me instead of always focusing on other people?
It's incredibly important. In fact, more than that, mate, it is fundamental. It's fundamental to any individual being well. You know, what often happens when things start to go awry and we start to feel less than or suboptimal is that we look to help and fix other people. You know, like that's our currency. We're gonna get our goodness by helping everyone else, and by doing that, when we're not feeling great, we just feel even worse. We get enervated. So it's fundamental to any person's life and journey that you work on yourself first, and it's not being selfish; it's being self-full. Because when I'm well, mate, all the things that you know really threw my head west throughout my life were basically around identity. It was basically about how good a father I was, how good a son I was, how good a footballer I was, how good a brother and a friend. And when you're not on top of your game and you're trying to throw everything all over the place, you end up being nothing for anybody. Whereas if I look after myself, I have the energy, I have the capacity, I have the headspace to be everything that I feel I should be for everyone, which is brilliant, mate. And that's what everyone. I feel everyone needs to focus on that, mate. You need to be able to look inwards and understand yourself, and it's only from there you can help outwards.
No, listen, I totally agree, and I think it's probably only this last year that people probably have looked at themselves a little bit and give themselves a little bit of love and a bit of attention and a bit of care, because I think you always see it as being selfish by always put other people first. You always make sure everyone else is all right, but sometimes you worry about yourself because you worry about your own future, especially as a dad and as a parent, as a son, like you say, you know, especially with not being able to see parents during this time. And you're right, they'll be all right because that's all they care about. They all care about your well-being. So, you know, I mean, if they can't help you while they're not with you, then you're helping them by helping yourself. And I think it's so important that the words that you've just said there, it's phenomenal. And to see you with a smile on the face, to see you talk, you know what I mean? I've read some of your book. I've seen some of your interviews with your lovely wife, and it's absolutely. It's phenomenal though that you thought thoroughly and you tell it so honestly, and I think that's key for me, and I think it's key for the people because you know what I mean. The things that you've gone through in your life during football, post football. It's a credit to the man, credit to the person you are that you're able to pass on those experiences to help other. You know what I mean? And I look at current football now, Clarke, and you know what I mean. People ask me now, would I like to turn the clock back? Would I like to go back into football now? And I look at this time of the year, you know what I mean, of post-COVID especially, you know what I mean, the amount of players who are going to be out of contract in a month's time. Would I like to be one of those thousands? Would I like to be unemployed again? No, I wouldn't. Would I like to be worrying about what's around the corner? No, I wouldn't. Would I like to sometimes worry that I was going to get selected again? No, I wouldn't. You know, I love my career. I love doing what I did for a living. It was a hobby, but I got paid for it. It was amazing, but playing against some amazing people, and it was a great life. But sometimes you can put that to the backside and move on and still enjoy what you've got and enjoy other things because you've got your kids to look forward to. They've got futures. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can't live in the past forever, which I think sometimes important.
I think it's very important, mate. You know, you raise a really good point there because I forgot a lot of my career, Andy. I've forgotten about a lot of it, and I've only got to grips with this in this past year or so. I've got a new therapist this year, a guy called Nick Mercer, Scouser, but he's down in London, and he's incredible. He's just taken my brain onto another plane, and I've only really thought about it this year that because everything in football, any success or any failure is only in that moment. It's never enough. So if you're the hero on a Saturday, it only lasts as far as Saturday because Tuesday comes and you've got to go again. And then Saturday comes and you've got to go again. And you win a league and you've got to go again and prove it the next year. Or, you know, your success is only temporary. And your validation is always external. You know how many times you came off the pitch thinking, yeah, I had a good game today. And the gaffer's like, terrible. Or the teammates say, you were terrible. Or even worse, the guy in the newspaper gives you 4 out of 10. Now, I'm not bothered about the guy in the newspaper. What I'm bothered about is the 3 million people who didn't watch the game who were seeing the guy in the newspaper's opinion that I got a 4 out of 10. I'm like, you didn't even watch the game. I had a great game. You know, and everything is external validation for that moment. And because of that, even though there were so many fantastic times like you talked about, you know, they don't they didn't sit with me, you know, like something I can enjoy ongoing forever and all the rest of it. They were just in that moment and they were gone because I had to prove myself again.
Yeah.
So it's only now that I have started to understand my value as a man. I know my worth now. I don't need to seek my approval from the gaffer, from my friends, from anyone outside of here. You know, I know who I am. I know what my worth is. And my wife, like, she confirms that for me, you know, on a daily basis. And I'm good with that. So I don't need to prove anything to my next door neighbour or to the shopkeeper. And because of that, because I know where I am now, I can actually look back and think, oh, hell, I was captain in the Premier League. Hey, that weren't bad, that, was it? Hey, bloody hell, I got to 4 playoff finals. You know, 2 Wembley, 2 Millennium Stadium. That's not bad, that. Oh, do you remember when that little scraggy kid who was 10 stone wet through came off the bench and absolutely ruined his But, you know,
I was ripped then, you know. I was ripped then.
You were hedge, mate. And you were rapid. You've always been rapid. But the point I'm making is only now I can look back at what I did in football and appreciate it. Because at the time, even what I'd done that day was never enough to, you know, nothing was ever certain. Your next, like you said, your next selection, your next contract, your next club, blah, blah, blah. And just thinking about after the pandemic, football's had its trousers pulled down, you know, it really has. Yeah. And there are going to be a lot of players out of contract, more than there's ever been before. Yeah. What's worse than that is that every club is going to turn the purse strings. You know, that flow of money that usually keeps the game going. You get some hot shot from the lower league getting picked up for $1 million, $1.5 million, and then that all gets spread about, doesn't it, by various fees. It's not going to happen.
No, smaller squads, lesser budgets. It's going to be a awful time for young players, especially.
Absolute
it's going to be awful, mate. Yeah. It's going to be awful. But for the viewers, everybody, I can read your comments, by the way. I'm going to be doing your questions. So please get them in. I can read every one of them. I want to start with Gaz. Gaz has sent a super chat about Harry Kane on his way to Man United. Heard it here first, lads. Transfer request is in. That'll be interesting if it is. We're going to talk about a little bit about football, Clarke. Amazing career. But I'm going to start with something we start with every guest. It's called Magnificent 7. So just 7 quick fire questions. Just a short answer, a one-word answer, depending on what the questions are. But here you go. So first one's dead simple. Messi or
Ronaldo? But you just don't even need to finish it.
Favorite TV show?
Countdown.
I like it. Do you know what? Somebody sent me a message like earlier on saying, ask him about this. He's a toughie for you. QPR or Burnley?
Burnley. Yeah, definitely.
Like it. Most hostile atmosphere you played a football game in?
Oh, that's a good question. I've had some right ding-dongs, you know, and they're all the derbies, aren't they? You know, Preston Blackpool was tasty.
Yeah, it was always
Watford Luton was tasty. I can't even think. Do you know what? Going back to Loftus Road was a bit feisty when I was playing for Leeds and then for Watford. Yeah, so I'll say Loftus Road going back there.
Like it. I like it. Good answer. Good answer. Best manager you worked under?
I've got to have 2, Aidy Boothroyd and Owen Coyle, and the 2 were just polar opposites, but both brilliant in their own way.
Yeah, well, I've heard amazing things about Aidy. I think I've heard about his coaching, his man management, the way he handles himself with his players. I've heard just some super things about him, but which is great. Always an interesting one. Angriest teammate?
Stephen Thompson.
Stephen Thompson
from Burnley. We used to call him Hector because that was his old
one. He played for Cardiff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played for Cardiff. Yeah. Well, and to be fair, you probably played a lot against him in training and things, so you probably had a direct conflict of interest during that.
Oh, mate, he was
And
always at the bar. Always at the bar. First
and
pint glass. Yeah.
final question. Who is it doesn't have to be football related, by the way, it can be anything in the world. Who is the greatest Englishman who has ever lived?
Oh, Frizzle. Oh, don't shoot me. Me dad.
Yeah, well, so it's a good shout because I got asked the same question because I did we always do it with a guest, but we didn't have a guest a few weeks ago because we tried a different route and I said the same. My dad's normally in the group chat asking questions, so I'm hoping he'll come in with some good questions. But as I say to the viewers, please send your questions in. I'm going with Clarke. So Clarke, you just mentioned. Well, playoff finals, you said 2 at Wembley and 2 at the Millennium Stadium. So Donna Perry's just asked, did you prefer the Millennium Stadium or at Wembley?
Wembley, without hesitation. I'll tell you what was interesting was Millennium Stadium with the roof closed. That was interesting. It was different. But you can't beat Wembley. Wembley's incredible.
No. And being obviously an Englishman as well, Clarke, and wanting to have that dream of playing at Wembley, you know what I mean? That was probably my only regret. You know what I mean? That they've been involved in wasn't at Wembley. I always wanted to play at Wembley. When I was at Middlesbrough, I missed out. I'm 17th man. You know what I mean? It was nice to be part of the occasion, part of the day, but to play at that stadium, you know what I mean? The Wembley Stadium now looks the new stadium looks amazing, but the old stadium it had something. It's got its history, and when you see the players and the goals that have been scored there and the games that are being played there, it's something that you always want to be part of, right?
It's what dreams are made of. You know, you're watching the FA Cup final as a kid in your granddad's living room, you know, on the telly on a Sunday afternoon back in the day when it used to be like that. I remember the Everton-Liverpool FA Cup final. That just it branded Wembley and the whole occasion of the FA Cup final in my mind. And then, you know, fast forward 15 years, and in fact, you were there. We played the 21s against Germany. We went down and watched England beat Germany, didn't we? The first team. I think it was Kevin Keegan's last game.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But that was my first physical interaction with Wembley. That's the first time I'd ever physically seen it and been in, you know, and like that. I'm just a kid from Preston, mate. I'm just some kid from Preston. And when I got there, I was like, this is awesome. Absolutely.
And that's the dream, innit? You know what I mean? That we were doing something that we loved. We met some amazing people. We went to some unbelievable occasions. You know what I mean? You talked about the last game of Kevin Keegan. It's remembered for that game. It's remembered for the Harman free kick for the free kick for the goal where they got beat. It's just a history, you know, that you look at modern day football now and it doesn't seem to have the fun, the humour. What happened back in the day, you know? I look at modern day football. You mentioned there about FA Cup finals. I put a tweet out the weekend about what's your favourite FA Cup final moment, and you said mine was Keith Houchin diving header for Coventry City against Spurs. Keith's obviously a North East man, and I've met him a few times, so it's always reminisced with me all the time. You know, being a North East boy myself, and watching the FA Cup final at the weekend. You know what I mean? Yes, there was fans back. It was amazing, but celebrating a non-goal more than they celebrated their own goal. It made me really think that how would I react to those kind of things? Because as a player, yes, you're relieved, of course you are, but it's the same as when you played and you stood there with your arm up and he's got a flag up. Yes, I've done my job, but when you're waiting for a decision to be made for 2, 3, 4 minutes, surely that's going to have it's going to take its toll on people physically, mentally. You know, it's got to be draining for the players as well as everybody else involved.
It disrupts your concentration, doesn't it? You get in a flow, you know. It's whenever, I mean, AD Boothroyd was one of the first ones to really like drill this into my mind. Is when there's a break in play, that's when you come alive, because usually that's when guys switch off, isn't it? You know, and you take your breather and then you try and get back into it, and you're usually caught out. But can you imagine trying to do that nowadays? We like you said, 4, 5, 6 minute intervals while everyone goes and stands around the telly. It wouldn't have worked for me, mate, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I got away. I've got a guess. I hazard a guess that 80% of my offsides were wrong. it's only because I was bigger than everyone else that I got away with it. But if those decisions had gone to the telly, then I'd have really struggled. I'd have really struggled. But I can understand it though, Andy. I can understand it because it's like we're seeing with the European Super League. It's mega money.
Yeah.
You know, football nowadays, football is a capitalistic behemoth. Ever since the Premier League got hold of the reins, and they just took it down their railway tracks, and like you said, it's a business now. You don't
of course it is, yeah.
You don't see the messing about, on the touchline as subs and stuff like that. All the little interactions that kind of put a little bit of I don't know, humour, a bit of relaxation, just injected a little bit of a calm into what can be really, vitriolic and lively circumstances. They've gone. They've gone. The game's clean.
Yeah, listen. I totally agree because the cup finals. I was so looking forward to it. 20,000 fans, and just. I was a little bit let down. You know what I mean? The goal at the end took away from the amazing strike from the Leicester player. The disallowed goal, which was the right decision, by the way. You know what I mean? Because people are talking about VAR's look at it by the letter of the law. It's offside, regardless if you know what I mean. It was the right decision. You know what I mean? If you agree with it or you don't agree with it, I'm not saying I do. I can't stand it because as a centre forward, you know what I mean? I'm similar to you. You know what I mean? I always played right on the edge, as you all know. You know what I mean? As a player, so you know what I mean. More often than not, all the times, because even if it's just my shoulder or the way that you hang your body or your head or your leg or something, it's just for me. I wouldn't have got my head around it. You know, I would have had to change my position. I would have had to change the way that I played in a way, and just for an amount of technology, I into it, which is quite disappointing to say. You know what I mean? But I think that's why I probably get my head round the terms of I'm not disappointed I'm not a footballer anymore, because what's involved in football now, you just mentioned there about having fun on the touchline. You know what I mean? The banter in the changing room before the game, the banter on the pitch as a sub. Sometimes it was better fun being on the bench and sitting on the bench than it was getting played. You know, so it's just about that. You know what I mean? And people don't see it now because there's so much at stake. And I'm talking League 2 clubs, League 1 clubs, Championship, staying in the Premier League. There's so much at stake. It's scary. You know what I mean? When Middlesbrough got relegated, yes, they were disappointed, but there wasn't the kind of figures you're talking. You know what I mean? They knew they were going to bounce back, get a full stadium week in, week out, and you'll make your money back. It's not a case of the club's going into ruins. You can't afford to pay wages. It was just absolutely heartbreaking, and football's just gone into another level.
The era that we came through, we came through the transition, really. You know, because the Premier League came about halfway through our career, and we got a taste of it, and this, that, and the other. But we're talking about that transition from when the majority of clubs, unless they were big clubs, were almost family-run affairs. You know, they were really close-knit. There was like 20 or 30 employees and this, that, and the other. Everyone knew everyone, and everyone knew everyone's name. And success and failure was experienced together. But now you look at any football club, and it's not just like 50 playing staff and coaching staff, all the admin team. There's the football in the community. There's the academy. There's the, secondary and tertiary initiatives by the club. That means that if the club fails, we're talking hundreds of jobs that are at risk. Yeah. We're talking the economy of a town that's at risk from a club going out of the Premier League. So it's not the same as it used to be. It means so much more to so many more people. Oh wow!
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's the madness. All and obviously everyone, we've talked for months and months and months about the same thing, about the group viewers, about how important your football club is to the town, for your city, because without, look at the Berries, you look at all of the clubs, you know what I mean? I can go back to Darlington, you know what I mean, where they went out of business, you know what I mean? I played for Halifax Town when they went out of business. It's so heartbreaking because just a footballer, I would go to another club because there's another 200 clubs in the world that you can, at that time that I probably got to go and sign for. But the person who was a secretary at that club, who didn't know any different, had worked there for 25, 30 years. Where does she go? You know what I mean? And that was the older I had the experience in life where I thought, you know what I mean, that's where the people where we need to focus on. You know what I mean? And that was a heartbreaking thing for me. Clarke, I want to talk about.
You've been to 2 clubs. They both went bust.
I've been to a few clubs, mate. I've been to a few clubs who got bust. You know what I mean? He seemed to follow me about towards the end, mate, to be honest. Obviously, Cardiff had money problems, left there. Dunfermline had money problems, left there. Halifax had money problems, went there. And I wasn't even getting paid decent money at the time either. I was just finishing my career. And it was quite a running joke. And after the last one, I thought, you know, like, I can't even start making jokes of it anymore because people are going to start taking it seriously. It was just, it was madness, madness. As we were talking about offside, my dad's come in the group chat, and I don't know if you see. Do you think Andy was offside in the playoff final when he scored his goal? So thanks, Dad, for putting the comment in. Love it.
I couldn't see through tears.
It was Danny. Just blame Danny. It was Danny's fault. Danny couldn't keep.
It wasn't me. I'd made the clearance, and it was Big Dan trying to play you offside on his. Do you know what it was? It's not even your goal, Andy. Your goal was a great finish, by the way. It was a great finish. Don't know what Daisy was doing. He's in no man's land. But it was the header that I missed before that in the first half of extra time.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't go across goal. And every time I see it in my mind, and I do frequently, that it was gaping. The goal was gaping. And I tried to wait for that. Oh. Isn't it incredible how much
it looks so small, though, doesn't it? It looks so small, and those are the kind of moments, aren't they? Because that was the always gets looked back on as well, just before the goal, because it's a moment where it gets shown as well. You know what I mean? That these kind of moments in games, that the defining moments. And when you speak about defining moments and season-defining moments, because the goal was, the header was, you know what I mean? Season defining, because it's fine margins that goes in there. I couldn't see us scoring a goal in that game, to be honest. The way the game was getting played, because you look at the game at your place about a month before. I think Ernie scored 3 and it was unplayable.
You beat us 4,
4-0. I don't think he got a kick. You know what I mean? So that showed how we ran out of ideas. I wouldn't say we were lackluster. We just came up to a team who were better than us on the day, who just nullified everything we had, who caused us problems going forward. I thought Kevin up front for you, I thought did his usual job playing in midfield and out wide. You were a threat. You and Danny going forward on set pieces, and you caused us problems throughout. We didn't really have a shot at goal apart from the goal, and it was that's just the way that the games go, and it's like you say, fine margins. You know what I mean? Just so history books. But if somebody watched the game again and you watched the whole thing all the way through, probably the best team didn't win on the day, which you know what I mean, just happened.
Like said, the previous encounters that season, you dispatched us. Absolutely dispatched us. Actually, I think we came to your place and won 2-1 actually to get in the playoffs. But you absolutely destroyed us at our place. Do you see things like that? Robbie Blake can remember every minute of every game against every player that he's ever played, whereas I would come off a pitch and I couldn't tell you who I'd marked or who I'd play with. But now, because I've got this freedom, I can recall things. It's awesome. But let me tell you, you talk about defining moments. People will see what happened on the pitch there. They'll see the 1 or 2 missed efforts when Tommy Williams went herring down that left-hand side and he cut in and he shot instead of squaring it to Kevin Gallen. They'll see all that. But what they won't see is what happened for the next 3 months. And what happened for the next 3 months, I don't know, because I wasn't sober. I lost the next 3 months of my life because of that match. Well, not because of that match, because of my reaction to that match. You know, and QPR almost went into administration and all the rest of it. People don't see all of the ramifications to the individuals in the game because of the result of that game. Whereas you guys all went off to Magaluf, was it? And then where did you man take?
But that's the moment, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because if we'd have lost that game, I'm not sure where Cardiff City would have been, because the players wouldn't have been there for sure. You know what I mean? You look at the Earnshaws, the Gabidons, the Cavs, the Thornies, all those players, in my opinion, you know, I don't know this for certain, but I would have thought that they would have gone on to pastures new. They would have gone on to stay in that division any longer, because that division was a as you know what I mean. You got out with the season after, in very comfortably. But that division was so hard to get out of. You know what I mean? The Stoke Cities the season before were a good side. You were a good side. We were a good side. There were so many good sides, and full of teams to get out of it. And if you get stuck in the playoffs again, it's just a lottery. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? The Bristol Cities as well were still in there. There were so many good sides and so many derbies, so many battles, so many teams who wanted to beat you because you were the biggest team in there with the best players. You know what I mean? And the season that the Langleys came to sign for us straight away after the playoff final.
Yeah.
So you lose one of your most influential players, good lad as well to have around the changing room. So you've got to then try and find someone to fill in those gaps and things. So it's it must have been really difficult for the club though, because
Landers was one of the most gifted midfielders I'd ever played with, but who didn't fulfil his potential. And it's because of his knee injury. You know, I've no doubts about it. It took the edge off him. But Graham Kavanagh, I think, he and Jimmy Bullard, two best midfielders ever to grace League Two. They were incredible. Oh, Fulham had a decent side as well, about 98.
Yeah, they did.
Cav was outstanding, mate. The guy, he just
obviously, you know what I mean? You're talking about that time, aren't you? I remember Wigan, and obviously that Jason Roberts up front. They had the Duke up front as well, and every time they got the ball going forward, they looked like they were going to score. Those two together, for me. Yeah, I know we had Ernie and Thorny, and Peter, and all the Cardiff fans will disagree with me here, but for me, those two on their day, they were the best strike force in that league. They were superb. You know what I mean? They had pace, they had power, they had goals, and when they knitted together, when they really wanted to do it, you know what I mean? There was probably no better partnership, and if they were a bigger club and probably a better supported club, they would have kicked together, because Wigan. It wasn't intimidating to go there. You know what I mean? The ground was nice, the setup was nice, but there was never anybody there, and it was disappointing for those kind of players to probably play in that kind of situation scenario. You know what I mean? Whenever you played there, Clarke, it was just dull and boring. You know what I mean? And it was just one of those.
They were in the chasing town, weren't they? You know, the stadium was for the rugby team. It weren't for the football team.
No. I totally agree. It's but yeah, great. Like I say, it's. It's great to talk about these kind of memories. To the viewers, I'm going to ask Clarke some questions about his early memories. So if you want to ask him anything you would like about his life, about his football, about what's going on now, what he's up to nowadays, please get your questions in, and I will scroll through. Clarke, I want to take you right back. So earliest football memory. So how did you get into football, and basically who got you into it?
My old man, it was my dad. You know, my dad, Mervyn Carlisle. He used to play Preston and District League, Saturday and Sunday leagues in Preston. And my dad was quality, mate. He was a striker. Left foot, right foot, header. It was the 70s shorts, the early 80s. Yeah. My dad was massive, like 6'5", absolute unit. He would go out wearing a pair of shorts, come back wearing a skirt, because his thighs were massive, just bursting. The only thighs I've ever seen close to my dad's thighs are Biak in Fenwith. Oh, my days. Guy's a unit. But, watching me old man, you know, I used to go and watch him play, and he scored goals for fun. And I wanted to be him. I wanted to be as good as him. I wanted to play football, and then, do you know, this is a bizarre thing to cling on to. I got a signed programme from Norman Whiteside's testimonial, signed by Norman Whiteside, obviously, but I never went, and I've never met the guy. But I treasured it. I absolutely treasured it, mate. I was like, this is amazing, because obviously he was still a player. And so those two things. You know, there's my old man playing, and then there was a superstar who signed a programme for me, who I'd never met, for a game I never went to. And those two things are my earliest memories of football that you know, they've really got my juices flowing.
Which is great, absolutely fantastic. Donna Penry's come in with a question in the group chat. Clarke, what team did you support as a kid?
Mate, I was so weak. So at first, my best mate at primary school supported Everton, so I supported Everton. And then they got beat in that FA Cup final by Liverpool, so I supported Liverpool. And then I got that side programme from Norman Whiteside, so I supported United. And then I signed for Blackburn, Centre of Excellence on schoolboy forms, so I supported Blackburn. And ever since then, I've just supported who I'm at. I'm Clarke Carlisle #1 fan club. So wherever I've been, it's been the club I support.
But I think that's important though, right? You know what I mean? Because when we laugh and a joke, don't we? We ask them questions at the start in the magnificent QPR or Burnley. You know what I mean? But I think it's important to have those kind of roots and have those foundations and leave a legacy. You know what I mean? Because you left the legacy at QPR, you left the legacy at Burnley, you left the legacy with Blackpool because you left them in a good place. So, you know what I mean? You always look at their results because, yes, you've left, but you always leave something behind. You leave mates behind. You leave memories behind. You leave the club behind. You leave everything. You know what I mean? But you always want them to do well because you want to go back one day or you want to see them do well. You want to win something because.
That's funny you say that. Did you always leave your clubs on good terms?
No, I didn't leave Cardiff on good terms. I left. I left probably 50% on. I'd probably say it was 50-50. There was. And probably 6 clubs, I probably left 3 in on good terms and 3 on terms which probably could have been me and them.
Yeah, I had 11 clubs, and I like to think that 11 managers wanted me, not 10 managers didn't. I would say there's probably only do you know what? Maybe two I left on good terms. It's like breaking up with a girlfriend, or with a partner, because there's always fault somewhere. No one ever leaves for a good reason unless you're being bought by Real Madrid, or you're being properly plucked out. So yeah.
No, but I agree with that, Clarke. It's either the club don't want you anymore, or you've outgrown the club in a way, or you're not playing and you want to go and play, or there's always a reason. It's never amicable. It's never, what I mean. There's always an awkward conversation with either the owner, the CEO, the manager, the coach, the players, or somebody at the club. You know what I mean? We talk here quite openly about social media and around when I was a player. I'll be honest, because. You know what I mean? When I did leave, and when you know what I mean, the amount of people who can probably make their own mind up, like you say, that you know what I mean, they'll listen to that one person who'll give you a 4 out of 10. So they'll listen to the first person who sticks a tweet out there or a post out there, and everyone will jump on the back of it. The facts, because we're only human, right? And when we look at posts what are out there, when we look at somebody saying negative things or positive things. Sometimes you believe what people write about you. If that's good, you believe it. If it's bad, you start to believe in it. So you know what I mean. It's the devil. It's the social media, and I would hate to be a young player now.
It's difficult to handle in an industry like football. Like when I was explaining earlier, where everything is about external validation. Everything, it doesn't matter how good you think you are. Someone else has to think that you are good in order for you to get picked, to get a contract, to get a move, blah, blah, blah. Everything is external. So if you've got any uncertainty, you have a look at your Twitter feed after a match, you might have 99 great comments and 1 bad one, but it's the bad one that will Velcro to you because you've got doubts, you've got doubts. And if that person can see bad things about me, then surely the manager can, surely the chairman can, blah, 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 blah. It's the negativity that Velcros to uncertainty. There aren't many pure people who I met in football. There aren't many who could be totally just certain about where they are and who they are. Gavin Marn was one. I loved it. He was so... Steve Palmer was another. Steve Palmer was another. So calm, confident, but that's about it. Everyone else needs something from out there. So, it's funny because there are some players who I wish social media was around for. People like Gary Brabin. Do you remember Gary Brabin?
Yeah, Brabs. Oh,
Brabs
Brabs is nuts. We've had a few stories about Brabs on here. Brabs grabbed hold of he grabbed hold of Nicky Southall during the game and got him in a headlock and ran down the touchline with him. And Nicky was only a young kid at the time, and Nicky was telling us a story a couple of weeks ago. And he talks to Brabs all the time about it, and Brabs just doesn't care. Brabs is just one of those people, though. He just didn't have a care in the world, did he?
It'd have been brilliant. This guy was still running the door at nightclubs in Liverpool whilst playing for Blackpool. He used to talk about hench. He was absurd. He used to stack the machine and get a YT on each arm and bench press it. It was awesome. I remember one day at training, he'd fallen out with Nigel Worthington, and he used to call him Nidge. Which is you've got respect for your gaffer, and because Brabs lost it, he just started to call him Nidge. And he went, "Oh, Nidge, please release me, let me go." And he sang it for 3 weeks. Going down the corridors.
That we talk about the joy and the humour out of football, which is gone. There's an example of things what would never happen now, though, because people wouldn't. Players have that much power. You know what I mean? Back in the day, players didn't have the power. Some power back into themselves and try to have a little bit of fun and a little bit of humour, just to bring something, just to crack with the lads. You know what I mean? I don't see teams who are struggling now getting out of it because they don't have that camaraderie together. They don't have the Gary Brabbins. They don't have a little bit of fun and go socialising together. And then on the weekend they're going through run through a brick wall together. It doesn't happen. You know what I mean? They're down the bottom of the league because there's nothing there. There's nothing from the top to the bottom of that football club, and it's such a shame though, because you can see it just run badly. You know what I mean? Look at Leicester City, for example. But they've won more than that. They're in the Champions League places because the chairman is in control of the manager. The manager's in control of his coaches. The coaches are in control of the players. The players are in control of each other. The captain's in control of everybody else. The whole club and the fans are just run in the right direction. And there needs to be.
What I think is different, mate? The difference between our era, I can't believe I'm looking back with. Do you remember those old boys when we were playing? You're like, oh, who's this geezer? Oh, back in my day. That's us.
I know.
What is different now to when we were playing is now the footballer is homogenised. Everyone is the same. You know, whether you're a full-back, a centre-half, a midfielder, a striker, everyone needs to have that technical ability, a goalkeeper, passing ability, blah, blah, blah. You need to have the pace. Whereas in our days, people specialised in certain areas. We say specialised. What we mean is they were crap in others. So, I could head it and kick it, but I was slow. So that's what I had to do. I had to head it a lot, kick it a lot. And because I was slow, I had to kick people a lot. And it's in making up for your deficiencies that you created characters. And I don't think there are many characters nowadays because everyone tries to be that perfect, technically gifted, tick-a-tacker, lovely, calming possession player. And not only do you not see someone with some fire and fundamental industrialism in them, grit and thunder and hard tackles, but the game doesn't allow it anymore.
I totally agree.
If you nearly tackle someone hard, you get booked. Mate, I'd have been sent off every 30 minutes nowadays, but back in our day, it was the people who weren't technically gifted that had to make up for it by having an impression on the game. And you had an impression on the game by putting in a thunderous 50-50 tackle, by heading the ball 90 yards down the park, by chasing someone 40 yards and putting them into touch when the ball's over there. That's how the lesser gifted players made an impression on the game. And it made an impression because there were thousands of people who reacted to it. So this past year, where there's no one to react to the things on the pitch, the game's lost so much of its impetus. Even the FA Cup final,
totally
even when, what's your man? I can't remember who it was, missed his shot. And there was the ironic cheers. Hooray!
Yeah.
That's all a part of the game, isn't it?
That's all right, yeah. I totally agree. And what you just said there, Clarke, it's music to my ears, though, because I've said openly on here that some of the guests we've had on here, you know what I mean, technically gifted, you know what I mean? And I didn't have the 10th of people's ability, but what I had something that nobody else had in what I ever came across, and I had something of a running pace which you could only probably dream of having as a footballer. So I myself in 2021, I don't think I would cope now, because my stats of giving the ball away probably would be really high. You know what I mean? Because of there's not much space in behind. There's not any areas which teams will do centre forward anymore. And I say that because my stature probably wouldn't allow it. I'm not the kind of player who would be able to play as a false nine, so I'd play up front against a couple of big centre halves. I wouldn't get the ball. I'd probably suit playing wide, which then you hold down the night. You know what I mean? So it's this 4-2-3-1. Instead of playing a big man and a little man up front, you know what I mean, which I loved because it took the pressure off me. If Peter Thorne, for example, would fight against you and love it, and you'd love it, he'd love it, but it'd take the pressure off me, where if I'm doing it, I'd hate every minute of it, and I'd look forward, I'd be thinking, please bring me off, you know what I mean, because I've had enough of this. This is just, you know what I mean, it's not me, you know. Sometimes you're in the game, aren't you, and you know what I mean, people think that you're gutted to come off sometimes, but when you've been battered by somebody for 70, 60, 70, 75 minutes, you change here. Just bring me off and let somebody else have another go, because I'm done. You know, I'm physically done and mentally done.
I could smell that in players. You know, when you've done them, when you've got them on toast. Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. It was always the first.
Yeah, you just know.
Yeah, the first aerial challenge, I would go right through the back here, right through the back. Even if I could win the header, I would head the back of your head, and I'd absolutely mull you, and I'd see what your reaction was from there, just to see whether I've got a game on my hands or whether I'm going to be able to spread you on toast.
Yeah, if you're coming back for more, and that's the worst thing, isn't it, for a defender? If you've got somebody who's comes back for more, and then you know you're in a game because they've come back 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and they get a bit of joy and then it's the battle, isn't it? You know what I mean? But people were up for it. You know what I mean? Back in the know we joke about it, but that's what people did, because it wasn't the game now. You know, it wasn't the game now. Somebody's put an interesting question in the group chat. So it was Reece Davies. Did you play with Leon Jean at QPR?
I did. Leon?
Question mark.
What you know? Talking about
he's one of the best players I'd seen.
Oh, without doubt, mate. Leon, he was incredible. Right? One of my. Have you had Langers on yet?
Not yet. No, he's on my list. Well, he's going to come on.
When Langers comes on, ask him about my first day at QPR. Because my first day at QPR, Leon, because he is, you know what he is. He was a Welsh playboy, wasn't he? He was proper having himself.
Yeah, he was.
And he went, all right, Clarke. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? He had a ball and he was doing all these skills. And he's going, Langers, what's he going to do about this? What's he going to do about this? I went, come on then, mate. Come on, let's have a one-on-one. One-on-one, Leon. He went, okay. Come on then, Mr. Big Bucks. We lined up. He started doing his step-overs and everything. I just went, whoa. Absolutely walloped him. I lifted him, but mate, he must have got 10 feet of Air Jordan hang time. It was brilliant. And he never challenged me again after that. He's like, Rich, it's a foul. It's a foul, Rich. It's a foul.
And you know what? It's Leon all over that. I know he's had. I don't know if he publicised issues now in Cardiff. That I know he's been to prison. Yeah. And he's got himself into trouble again. And you know what? It's such a shame, you know, because we're on about wasted talents. We're on about players who didn't fulfil their potential, and he could have been anything he wanted to be if the right person got hold of him. If that's an advisor, if that's just someone who could have just calmed him down and looked after him in his home city of Cardiff or in London, you know what I mean? Because you've got a young laddie who's thrust into a big city in London. He's thrust into a big city in Cardiff with all his mates around. The pressure. There's got to be that support mechanism. There's got to be that safety net for him to be able to go so far, but can be brought back in to look after him, because he had all the talent in the world. It just didn't. Well, obviously, didn't go the way that he wanted it.
It goes deeper and bigger than that, because when you take kids out of situations, especially, you know, like working class, council estate, underprivileged, and maybe poor education situations, like the one that I came from. It's not about just guiding them or mentoring them, because you're like a kid in a sweet shop. All of your dreams have come true at once. So it's so, you know, it's not a superhero complex, but what you have now is the best thing you could ever imagine. So there's no point in thinking about next week, next year, year after, because this is dream come true stuff. So what you need to do is we need to get into lads before they become professionals in the academy, so that they understand their whole self and football in the context of a lifetime. You know, because when you're playing, it's all about now. I didn't start thinking about retirement until I hit 30 odd. I retired at 33.
Yeah,
you know, and I was one of those who thought about it in advance. But up until then, you're just in this mindset where you're thinking about the next contract, next match, next contract, next match, and you either think it'll go on forever or you hope it'll go on forever. But it's always about the moment.
Yeah.
So getting people to understand that football at best is going to be 10 years of a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, that's the understanding we need
Totally
to give
agree.
to
No, absolutely bang.
Yeah, mad skills, mad pace, and he's the only person, well, not him and Gifton Noel Williams, who've got more kids than me. So
it's interesting what you just said on about it goes deeper than that, about transitions and things and people putting things in place. So whose job is that then, Clarke? Because obviously you work for the PFA. You played a huge role in changing and trying to change. I think he's got some changing to do, whoever will be able to put things in place now. Is it the clubs who players are playing for? Are they right just to wash their hands with players who they release, or should there be an aftercare system in place for those kind of players? Or is it solely the PFA, the Premier League, the EFL, to show the care or to look after these players after, let's say, an injury happens, release happens, retirement happens? Whose job is it?
It's a really difficult question. If you're gonna take us at like a wider perspective of it, because let's say your old man works for NatWest and then leaves NatWest. Is it their job to look after him once he leaves NatWest, wherever he goes on to? You know, whether if he changes industry or if he changes career or if he retires, what have they got to do with him now? Nothing. They're his employer for that period of time. So you have a look at that. That's a football club, isn't it? The football club is the employer. They need to look after the person while they're in situ. But the wider industry has a moral obligation to look after players. And that, in my opinion, is down to the union. You know, I think that, right, let's not talk about this one topic in isolation. Let's talk about football. Football does not know who should do what. All of the stakeholders are so concerned about whose badge is on the front page and what control do we have over this and what the finances are that everyone wants to do everything. So that means that there is no ownership or responsibility taken for issues that they should be responsible for. Now, football clubs are employers. They should have a health and safety policy and strategy that mitigates the risks while they're at the club. The FA and the Football League and the Premier League, they're governing bodies. They should govern. The PFA is the players' union. They should be the ones that put that circle around the players. But because everyone is trying to do everything, all the arguments are about ownership and little bits of this is done and it's optional and no one knows who to go to. And so everything falls on his side. So you talk about retirement and transitions. It's the same as mental health and crisis support. It's the same as well-being support. It should all be run by the union, and they should have direct access to every football club. It shouldn't be, oh, can we come in and see our players, please? Yeah, come back 3 weeks on Wednesday because we've got 4 games in 9 days. That, it can't be like that.
No, I totally agree. No, I totally agree. We had Klaus Lundigvarm on a couple of months. He had his high-profile problems in his life, and he's now working for Southampton. Just started working for Southampton as I think he's a mental health coordinator. You know what I mean? So he's helping young players. How they're feeling as a footballer. After a bad game, he's got that insight. After a good game, he's got the insight. After getting released, after getting sold, he's got the insight. He's been there. He's done it. He's wore the t-shirt. I think it's so important for an experienced older player to give that experience back to the younger lads. You know what I mean? Because he can guide them through while their generation comes through. He can guide them through as well, because he can guide Joe Bloggs through to his next club, and then hopefully somebody at Leeds United, for example, who he's just moved to, can then pick it up and move him on to another level. Yeah. And by the time we know it, he's had some guidance from 6, 7, if not 10 ex-professional footballers who've given him all this knowledge, all this experience, and he can put into a pot. And then by the time he's at that 10th club, he's ready to retire because he's had that experience. He knows what's coming. He knows that it's coming anyway because he's 16, 17, 18, that tomorrow could be your last game because you could get injured. You know what I mean? Yes, it's not nice to hear, but you need to know those kind of things, because when that does happen to somebody, they're not ready for it. You know what I mean? They're not ready at 18 to get released. You know what I mean? I speak to young lads all the time. I speak to parents still that get released at Middlesbrough, Darlington, Hartlepool, York. And parents say, what's next for my son? I don't have the answers for them because, you know what I mean? How dedicated is he? You know what I mean? Does he want to be a footballer? You know, how much does he want it? You know what I mean? Is he willing to take 2 steps back to go 5 steps forward in the next 5, 6, 7 years? Because that's how long it might take. Is he that dedicated? And it's having those answers. I can't answer them questions for an individual. I can only answer them for me.
They're hard to answer, mate, because you'd never, to be brutally honest in that situation, almost feels cruel. You know, so if a lad's been released from a club, it's so hard to say to a parent, well, look, is he prepared to go 2 steps back to stay there for 5 years and maybe go 2 steps further back and then go and get another job?
Yeah.
You know, because this is it. What are his alternatives? And nowadays, what are her alternatives? You know, the Women's Super League is creating a momentum in young girls football that's so similar to the momentum when we came through, you know, where they're being sold the dream and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And it's, you know, this is going to be absolutely amazing. And the truth of it is only 0.1% of them will ever make it. And it's hard to tell that reality to parents.
And I think that's the heartbreaking thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because I can only say it from my point of view, you know what I mean? And what my dad never put any pressure on me as a footballer before I was. So I knew exactly the path that I was going to follow. You know what I mean? If I wanted to be a footballer, I knew what it was to be a YTS, what it was to be to make your debut, what it was to be to play in the Pontins League, what it was to do jobs, what it was to just to be a footballer. And do you know what? And these are the good things and the things that I remember most about being a player. You know what I mean? YTS was the best days of my life. Make my debut in the Pontins League at Leicester City, I think it was, away from home at Filder Street, when they had dancers on the touchline every time the ball went out for a throw and there's music coming on. And I thought, surely this doesn't happen in the Premier League. And you only realise that when you go there, isn't it? And you're a little bit disappointed, little bit disappointed. But parents nowadays want their kids to be a footballer, to live the dream that they never made it, and that's the pressure that they're putting on their own kids. And it's such a, it must be so hard for a child though, because if you do get released, you know what I mean, then the parent takes it probably worse than you do. You know what I mean? And where do you go from there? You know what I mean? You get released, like kids are getting picked up at 6, 7, 8-year-old. They're getting released at 12, 13, 14. I personally think it's too early. if I have got 3 girls, and one of my girls plays football at a decent level, just turned 16, so hopefully she'll carry on playing football throughout her young life. But I'm so glad I haven't got a boy, and I'm so glad if I did have a boy that wouldn't play football. It's a cutthroat industry, you know what I mean? If they're gonna make it to the top level and make decent money and living out of it, fair play. But like you said, the percentages of us who do that is few and far between now.
It's the cannon fodder. The kids that come through the academy system and the schoolboy forms and all the rest of it. They are all cannon fodder, because every club is casting the widest net possible just to hopefully unearth that one diamond. And I got released by Blackburn at 14. I signed for Blackburn at 12. Me and David Dunn, were in the middle of the park, and I got released at 14. It was just as they'd won the Premier League. Jack Walker was pumping all his money in. They built the big Blackburn Rovers indoor centre, the brick, and it was awesome. And then Alan Irving said, he released me. Mate, I cried for 3 days. 3 days straight, I cried, and I vowed never to play football again. It broke my heart. That was horrible.
But like you said earlier on, though, Clarke, you said you supported that club as well. You know what I mean? Because you were a fan of it. You know what I mean? So you're not just a player now. You're a player and a fan, and that dream's been broken as both. Younger lad as well, and not having the emotional coaching, so to speak, and knowing how you're supposed to handle yourself, and because no one ever got you. No one gets you ready for it. I'm not saying they get you ready for it now, but I think there's a lot more people getting released at younger age now, and everyone knows it's available. But back in the day, it was very rare that people did. You just either carried on and signed for the club at 16, or you just moved to another club within just the system of the schoolboy system, or just for YTS. So it was probably listen, and I'll go back to the point of, I would hate to be a footballer now, and I'd hate to be that for the worry of that. You know what I mean? Because of what goes on in the world anyway. You know what I mean? I would be worried about my next contract. You know what I mean? Because contracts aren't 3-4 year contracts anymore, and that I'd be worrying after Christmas of 3 months later on. So that would affect my game. It would affect my mental health. It would affect the way that I handled myself, and it would just be a big worry, and I don't think people deserve that kind of worry. You know what I mean? People have this constant and don't have to work when they retire, and you know what I mean. And you've got lads. Well, I know lads who are still playing at Hartlepool. You've got lads at Carlisle United, for example, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And you know what I mean. You got people who and earn 10 times what they're earning. And it's a scary thought. You know what I mean. But they're living the dream, and they won't have any regrets when they finally do retire and they get to a level.
When I started, I mean, when that time I got released by Blackburn, and then it was about 2 weeks later, Fred O'Donoghue signed me up for Blackpool, and my first like major match experience was playing in the FA Youth Cup against Newcastle at Gateshead. But I was still at school. I was still in year 10, and I was playing I was in year 11. I was playing with the youth team in the FA Youth Cup, and it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And I did that for nothing.
Yeah. So
when I signed for £27.50 a week, I was buzzing.
Best money. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. And like we're on about these times. I was. I don't know if you did it at Blackpool and things, but when we got a bonus system brought into Middlesbrough when in the youth team, so we got £4 a draw and £8 for a win. But it didn't have bulky wages up. You know what I mean? It was amazing. And if you got to play for the reserves as well, you got £15 extra, and it would just be like, even if you just sat on the bench, it would just be, and you get your wages and you could feel it, but it's just.
Was it?
You know what I mean? Your coins. Sometimes your coins weren't coins anymore. You know what I mean? You knew when you pick coins in your pocket. It was just one of those feelings. You'd really earn it on a Friday.
We only got the bonuses for playing in the reserves. We didn't get any in the youth team. So it was, and it was about that. It was like £12 and £6 or £12 and £8 for a win and a draw in the Resis. And at the end of the month, and I buy myself a new pair of Patrick Cox wannabes. And
got it, innit? Memories, mate. Memories. We've got some great from the group chat. We've got Becky Willis, which is Si's lovely wife. So I hope you're looking after him, Becky. Who was your favourite player to play with, and least favourite player to play against?
Oh gosh, favourite player to play with. There's the boring answer, and then there's the nice answer. And the boring answer is Graham Alexander. Graham Alexander, Grezza, he was my roommate when I was at Burnley. The guy is the consummate professional. Yeah. He was outstanding, so reliable, so consistent. And as centre halves, he used to sit in front of us and just screen it. He'd screen everything in front of us. He was brilliant, Andy. I was like, Grezza left, Grezza right.
Is this a dream?
For me. Yeah. The gaffer thought, I'll sit him in front of the centre halves because he's like 49 now or something ridiculous like that. Which just give the rest. I'm like, Grezza left, Grezza right. But he
he could take a penalty as well, by the way, couldn't he? He used to score.
This guy, after training every single day, he would tie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bibs in the goal, and he'd have a bag of balls, and he wouldn't leave until he'd hit every bib one after the other and back again. So if he got 3 and missed, it'd start again. He would do it every single day, and that's why. What did he score? 52 out of 52 penalties, something like that.
It's just an unbelievable.
It's testament to his
how good he was. Yeah,
he got his international cap, his first one, like at 36 or something like that.
Yeah, Scotland. Yeah,
awesome guy.
Did you always think he was going to be a gaffer?
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Nailed on. Not just because of his quality and his knowledge, but because of the man he was. If he didn't become a manager, he would be the manager I would love to play for. Yeah. He's got an honesty, Grezza, that is very rare in football. Very rare, because people are always presenting, aren't they? You're always presenting yourself. I'm top man around here. I'm the best centre half here. I'm the this. I'm the that. And you have to, don't you? Because,
totally agree.
You need to show your best side all the time. But
totally agree. But people see that as arrogance, don't they, Clarke? But I think there's a fine line, isn't there, between arrogance and confidence and having pure belief in yourself. That when they class that as arrogance, but people who know him and know, who've been in and around those kind of people, it's pure belief in themselves, and it's just having confidence in the ability that you've got to go on the pitch and do the job that you need to do for yourself and for your teammates and for your club. And I do get there's a fine line between arrogance and being overconfident, but he had it in abundance. He just had pure confidence and belief in himself.
The fine line is about where you present that. If you're presenting that at the training ground and at matches and stuff like that, that's right. They're your performance arenas. But if you're presenting it at the petrol station and at a restaurant and at a nightclub in 3 a.m, that's arrogance. That's not the time and the place for you to be presenting this big persona. Yeah. So I think there's the difference, knowing the time and the place to show your proficiency in that area. And he was also some really, Joe Cole in the 21s was exceptional, wasn't he? He was utterly exceptional.
But he had a natural talent, Clarke, didn't he? What I've never seen on anybody. You know what I mean? That he could do things with the football that it was so listen, it made you feel sick. You know what I mean? That things that he could just do, how natural he was. He was like Gaza. But I mean, he was a cheeky chappy from London. He was very confident about himself. He was a life and soul when he wanted to be. But you know what? When he wanted to be the ultimate professional and get on the pitch and really perform, yes, he was a showman when he wanted to be. But he was a showman in the right way. You know what I mean? He did it he did it in the right mean. And if you were 4-0 up, he'd have a little bit of fun because he loved his football and he enjoyed it. But he'd also get stuck in. He had a ruthless side of him as well.
Definitely. People condemn showmen and showmanship, but I would always encourage it in my teammates, in the gifted teammates, in Robbie Blake, in Chris Eagles, in Leon Jean, all of these players who've got it, in Aaron Lennon. I would encourage it in it because it's the showmanship that's unexpected by the defender.
Yeah.
If I'm marking this guy for 60 minutes and I'm showing him down the left, showing him into this, and then all of a sudden he just produces a 360 pirouette and a tic-tac, and I'm sat on my backside. It's fantastic. The unexpected is what defeats old war horses like me. You're like, oh my God. What the hell did that
come on that? On that matter, though, you know what I mean? We could even go one step further, couldn't we? Because Ronaldo's not classed as a showman. Messi's not classed as a showman because they do it. They do it because it's a natural way for them to beat their players. Mm-hmm. It's a natural way because they're that talented. They can do it, but because they're talented, you know what I mean? Joe Cole was talented. Gaza was talented. You know what I mean? You've just named loads of players there who were ultra talented, who could do it on a daily basis, weekly basis, gamely basis. They do it. It doesn't make them showmen. You know what I mean? Because players are always going to get things wrong. You know what I mean? I'll probably use David Dunn's as an example when he tried his Rabona flick and he fell over in the Birmingham derby. And it's obviously a famous one which gets shown all the time. But Dunny was good and very good at what he did. 9 times out of 100. But that one time he didn't do it. He couldn't do it, and it's one of those things. Isn't it? I wouldn't have even tried it. So you know what I mean? My hat's off for him and those kind of players. For trying those kind of things, which I just think is amazing, absolutely amazing. Clarke, we've got loads of questions.
I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished. The worst to play against. I could really throw you off, mate. Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp,
silly list.
Robbie Keane. He tore me several new backsides.
Robbie was good. Robbie was very good.
He was the most intelligent player I've ever played against.
Yeah, Robbie was. Yeah.
You know who was the hardest? Mark Overmars. The guy went from 0 to flat out in 2 strides. In 2 strides, I barely turned and he was already at top speed. He was insanely quick.
I don't think it helped with him, Clarke, was the balls that he got from Petit, the balls that he got. You know what I mean? Because when you're playing against the Invincibles, for example, especially the year that the one that stayed unbeaten, that you and then you get him, and then you get Christopher Ray comes off the bench, and then you get other players. It's one thing after another. You know what I mean? Then you got the Bergkamp who drops in the hole, and you know what I mean. And you're just thinking it's just sink or swim time, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because it's just damage limitations. Because I remember we played. It was the year that they were Invincibles. They beat us 7-1. I'm not exaggerating. You know, the people in the group chat will probably be will have gone to the game, and that was 7-1, but it should have been probably 15. You know what I mean? They missed some horrific chances. You know what I mean? And I'm on about Kanu, back heel flick. You know what I mean? Your Vieiras, your Petit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We never looked like scoring because they had the best back four in the world. You know what I mean? With David Seaman and Tony Adams. You know what I mean? These kind of legends but everything they had going forward, they had everything to back it up as well.
Yeah, they beat us 6 at the Loft, and all of them had a fag on. All of them.
Yeah, just it made you sick though, didn't it? They made everything look dead easy. You know what I mean? But the thing what I liked about Pat Rice at the time, you know what I mean? They just loved wanting to get more out of the team. You know what I mean? They wouldn't stick at 6. You know what I mean? They wanted 7. And when they got 7, they want 8. You know what I mean? They let a goal in. They were disappointed with it. You know what I mean? It was just, they just wanted excellence all of the time. And you know what I mean? They got the Champions League final, didn't in the season after, obviously got beat by Barcelona. And the quality within the group, it was just a joy to play in the Premier League at the time. You know what I mean? It's not nice to get beaten, of course it is, but it's, I'm glad I sampled that kind
now,
of...
isn't it? And look back and see we're in the midst of such quality. You know,
yeah, of course, because when you're talking about that name of world class gets branded about all the time, but the Arsenal players, you know what I mean, the seasons and the teams which go undefeated, it's very few and far between. You know what I mean? It won't happen nowadays because of there's too many good sides in the Premier League. You know what I mean? And there's, you know what I mean. But there was that good on the day that could just really turn it on, and it was surreal, mate. Absolutely surreal, surreal. Right, we'll go. Get your questions in, everybody. We'll go for another 10 minutes or so. So get your questions in for Clarke. We'll start with Donna's. Clarke, did you ever have a pre-match ritual at any of your clubs?
Yeah, every club. I had a full English breakfast, and I had 2 pints of black coffee. I remember when Eddie Howe came into Burnley, and he tried to stop us having full English, and he swapped my bacon for turkey rashers, and he swapped my sausages for venison sausages, and I weren't allowed baked beans. So instead, I went to
gone down well.
A restaurant, had a full English, and then came to the club meeting room so that I could have my pre-match meal with them. But I love this routine versus superstition question, and especially when sports science comes in, because if you've done something for 15 years and it's what you've done for 15 years and it puts you in your optimum performance state, I think that there's surely an argument that taking it away will cause more negativity to me than the positive of giving me some nutrient shake. I'll feel like I've lost more than I've gained, and it's how I feel that's most important when I go out to perform.
Yeah. If you're not broke, why fix it? You know what I mean? Sometimes you think that, don't you? I remember when I first signed for Cardiff City, and obviously a good friend of mine, he's been on the show, Andy Legg. Obviously Leggy played 30s. He was one of the fittest players. One of the fittest players that I'd seen. His long throw, he had everything in abundance of what he did. Great attitude. Leggy would sit in the changing room of my first home game. He would sit there with a McChicken nugget meal and sit there and just openly eat it in front of everybody. And I'm sitting there thinking, he can't be playing. You know what I mean? And then when the gaffer's named the team and he's put him on the left or he's put him centre midfield, I'm thinking. And then he's played the game and courted through the game. I'm thinking, how is this possible? But you've got a player whose body's finely tuned with the way that he's tuned it. He's tuned his own body, and he's tuned his own body with the things that he puts in it. And you know what I mean? If he tuned it, look at Ray Parlour, for example. Ray's very open about Tuesday Club and how they used to tune their body in different ways. And your body regulates itself. Your body gets used to it. And Leggy's body. My body, your body, Ray Parlour's body gets used to the way that what comes into their body and what goes out of their body, and it's just everyone's built differently. You know what I mean? These energy supplements, you can have all the shakes after the game. It doesn't mean you're not going to get injured. It doesn't mean you're going to play well. It doesn't mean anything apart from mind over matter. You know what I mean? Sometimes whatever works for you, and it's not going to work for somebody else.
I totally agree. The other part of my ritual was I would only put my boots on just before I'm going out. Putting my boots on was that was the moment that I got into my work mode. So before then, I'd sort around with my brew, I'd be listening to music, chatting, go and see the kit man. But as soon as I got my boots on, that was work mode. So I'll be the very last person to put my boots on.
Yeah, good one. And that's what people do, don't you? You know what I mean? I remember when I played at Anfield, and I always wanted to touch that "This is Anfield" sign and think, does that really make you play well? And I remember touching it once. It wasn't the first time I played there. I think it was the second time I played there, and I touched it once, thinking I'm going to play well today. And I had an absolute nightmare. I missed a sitter, and I'm thinking I'm never. Do you know what? Next time I play here, I'm never touching that sign again. And I didn't play there again, so I was a little bit disappointed. But it's one of those things, isn't it, that people. You start to believe your own hype sometimes. You start to believe what people tell you. You know what I mean? That people put the left boot on, then they go down the right and things. And whatever. Listen, I've got no issue with what works for somebody else, but I'd love to just watch it and sit and just watch them do it, because I'd just be mesmerised by it all, because of this. I just think it's for education purposes for me. It's just about watching.
It's brilliant. Having a routine is really important.
Yeah. Totally agree.
But when it crosses into superstition, so if one part of it changes, and in your mind that's it, your game's gone. Now that's not healthy. That's not good. So I had my routine, but I was okay if I put my boots on a bit earlier, or I was okay if there were no sausages for me full English.
Yeah.
But saying that, when we went to Anfield, I had an absolute worldie. I marked Fernando Torres out of the game. Yossi Benayoun scored
Nice.
that trick. Got beat 4.
You can only do so much, mate, can't you?
I did my job.
Yeah, exactly. Like we said about the playoff final. It's not your fault. It was Danny's. It was Danny's fault. Just blame Danny. It's always Danny's fault.
In the paper, I got
Dan's
4.
fault.
Not 4 out of the game.
Quality. Cade Charles asked a question. Cade's one of our viewers who asks some great questions. And obviously with Black Lives Matter, Clarke being quite relevant, obviously in the news and things. Any racial abuse during your playing career by fans or opposition players?
Well, how long have we got left? I could give you a massive story about this. The truth is, the first time I experienced like vitriolic racial abuse was on Twitter. It was on social media. That was the first real interaction, and that's because when I look back before that, I can't get away from the fact that I grew up in the 80s and started to play in the 90s. And at that time, a lot of the humour was race-based. It was all on stereotypes for anyone and everyone, so whatever race you were, whatever religion you were, whatever nationality you were, all of the humour was tagged onto some kind of, feature or stereotype. And when I look back, especially at probably my first 5, 6, 7 years in the game, I laughed and joined in with a lot of discriminatory jokes against myself as well as teammates, because that was what everyone was doing. And I was a young kid trying to get into the game. So, joking about the size of a guy's penis, or joking about how stingy the Scottish person was, or joking about the Irishman's drinking habits. All of these things I was laughing at and joining in with on a daily basis, because that's what everyone was doing. And I was 16 years old trying to fit into a new environment. So it's only when I kind of matured myself that I started to actually, understand my contribution, because there's a difference between between not being racist and being anti-racist. So not telling racist jokes is one thing, but being anti-racist is actually intervening when other people do it. And I think for 10 years of my career, at least, I was letting it happen, which makes me part of the problem. But it was only from there that I started to pick it up.
Not funny. I apologise for that. Interesting that you say that we've had a couple of players, ex-players, who said the same thing, that handle. So they just laughed along with the jokes, or thought it was a joke. So they didn't know how to handle it, so they decided to just go along with it, but then regretted it later on in their careers, you know what I mean, and just thought how they would handle it differently now, with a little bit of life to themselves, because they didn't see it as it was a problem. They just saw it as a joke, so they just laughed along with it. Like there was other jokes going on about different other people, and they would say different other things, and you know what I mean? I can't put myself in that situation. All I can say is I can't blame the person who laughed along. It's a person who's done the joke, and it's not a joke. It's a person who said the comment, and I would never have someone thinking that they've laughed along. They've done something wrong, and they should have done something differently. They've handled it the best that they can handle it at the right time. You know what I mean? There's people who handle it now on social media who screenshot some of the comments, like you said that you've seen in the first time that you saw it, and you screenshot it. You know what I mean? Some of the United boys have done it. They screenshot it and put it out there. Some people see the comments and keep it to themselves because they don't want people to to see what other people are saying about them. And I can fully understand and respect that as well, because it's private to them, because it's their family who's got to see it. You know what I mean? It's not just themselves who have got to see it.
Every reaction is down to the individual, mate, and their experience. And you've got to put them in context. So the people you're talking about who shared a similar experience to me, I'm talking about the time when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, you know. Not only was I a young kid, but the way that football was structured, you know, you were subservient. You didn't talk back to senior pros. You didn't answer back to any of the coaching staff. You didn't say anything to the manager, because if you did, you singled yourself out as, like, you know, someone who misbehaves, someone who's arrogant, someone who blah, blah, blah. And if you did do that, you're not going to get picked. You're not going to get a contract. You're not going to get this, that, the other. So until you get to a place where you are certain about your career and who you are and your worth, you don't do anything to rock the boat. You don't do anything to jeopardize the potential of you making progress in that footballing environment. And what I love about today's game is that the younger generation aren't as accepting as we were. Yeah. You know, the younger generation, I know my eldest daughter's 22, and she calls things out. She's like, Dad, that's not acceptable. And I'm like, were you telling me that's not acceptable? I'm your father. I'll tell you what's acceptable. But it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Us as parents, we're not the sole authority in our children's lives. Do you remember when you used to ask your mum and dad a question and they'd answer you, and that would be the gospel truth? Well, it's not anymore. The kids ask you a question, I say, I think it's this. And they'll be like, well, no, actually, Google says it's this, Dad. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And you're undermined by technology on a daily basis. So you're no longer the authority in your child's lives. And I like that. I like that because, you know, it gives them a little bit of knowledge, of independence, of backbone. And that is growing into players like Marcus Rashford, like Raheem Sterling, who are standing on their own 2 feet at the age that they are. When if we'd have done it at that age, people would have said, who does he think he is? He's done nothing in the game. As though you have to have done something in the game to have a valid opinion or expectation.
Yeah, bang on. Absolutely bang on. Right, final question. I'm going to pick one more. It's got to come from Si, because Si's watching and he's stuck a comment in. Clarke, did you ever fall out with the teammates? Yeah, did you ever fall out with the teammates and it go on longer than the 90 minutes?
Oh, that's a good question. A teammate. I'm not going to say that. Do you know what? Right, this is a little bit naughty. There's a couple of players who I'd had long-running feuds with because they were fellow centre halves, and the club captain would always get picked, and then it was either me or him who were going to get the other slot. So it was always smiles on faces, but at any given chance, I would absolutely smash the living daylights out of them. I mean, dog. You know, whether it was training, whether it was playing cards on the bus, whether it was playing Mario Kart on DS, you know, I wanted to absolutely, utterly humiliate this other person, but without looking like I'm attacking them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like it. Love it, mate. Love the answer. Love the honesty.
Teammate, first opponent.
Love it. Oh, love it. Clarke, your honesty this evening has been absolutely golden. I really appreciate you coming on. To the viewers, please subscribe. Please go to YouTube, subscribe, press the like button. Keep following us. Keep watching all the shows. Facebook, etc.
A.C.E Footy Show.
A.C.E Footy Show, on the handle and everything on Ex Podcast Nation as well. Si does loads of other shows, mental health. And loads of other shows with Kevin McNaughton, etc. So we've got plenty. A show on Friday, depending on obviously Si's health. I know obviously Bournemouth beat Brentford this evening 1-0. I'm sure Swansea have just gone 1 up against Barnsley. So come on, Barnsley. That'll cheer all the Swansea fans up. But let's see. From Si, from everybody, all the viewers, you've been absolutely amazing, mate. You look amazing. You look really happy, and it's great to have our Clarke back.
Oh, thanks, Andy, mate. Thank you for asking me on. It's a pleasure, and it's been lovely to think good thoughts, mate. God bless you.
Good lad. Take care.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like... My mummy and daddy have been talking... My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about